After President Obama speaks at the UN, he will speak to the Clinton Global Initiative here in New York. The organization will also hear from Governor Mitt Romney this morning.
Former President Bill Clinton created the initiative in 2005 to address social change around the world. Well, we spoke with him on Monday about politics, the economy, and that anti-Muslim film that set off deadly riots across the Middle East.
We weren't disrespecting Islam by not squelching a film trailer that nobody in authority knew anything about, that 99% of us think was crude and disrespectful and awful, but that we have learned the hard way over more than 200 years that in order to preserve freedom and liberty, including the freedom of religion, you have to allow people to say and do things that you find abhorrent. And you can't react every time you're insulted. I mean, that's the first thing we all have to teach our children. And I don't mean to compare the people rioting against us in Cairo or anywhere else to children. That's not the point. The point is, if you live in a shame-based society where you think nothing good's going to happen, the temptation is to wait for somebody to say something you find offensive, then you can lash out against it. But free people, Mandela, absorb destructive things and refuse to be destroyed. Yes, Americans don't understand all Muslim countries as well as we should, but they need to understand us and themselves. You cannot live in a shame-based world. You won't make it in the 21st century. There's too much diversity. There's too much stuff going on the internet. You've got to be able to say, if you believe in Islam, that I believe in a God and a prophet strong enough to withstand the criticisms of petty, narrow-minded, mean-spirited people. I believe that the cultural crassness I abhor will, in the end, fall before the values that I exalt.
All right, let me turn to politics in this way. You got some acclaim because of a speech you made that had lots of specificity in it, and arithmetic even. Having said that, do you think that the president, especially because he's in your party, but also Governor Romney, have laid out with enough specificity so that the American people understand what they plan to do?
Well, I think that the differences between them are clear. They've said enough to make the differences clear.
Is that philosophy or specifics?
Well, they've said enough philosophy with enough specifics. If you look at the whole Republican primary process and the whole last year or so where the president made specific budget offers to Congress. We know what Governor Romney says, which is that his proposal for dealing with the debt is first to make it bigger by adopting another round of tax cuts that, with the interest associated, it would be about $5 trillion more over a decade. And we know how he says he wants to eliminate them, not by raising taxes, but by eliminating preferences in the tax code. But he says he can do that without raising taxes in the middle class. I'm not sure that's possible, but he wants to defer till after the election saying what the specifics are. I think that ought to be a little bit of a red flag.
Mitt Romney told Scott Pelley that he's going to reduce everybody's tax rates by about 20%, but that the rich would not pay less because he would end deductions and loopholes, and that he would still be able to balance the deficit by doing that. Of course, as you pointed out, he will not say which deductions and loopholes he would end.
Here's the problem.
Why do you say that raises a red flag?
Under Governor Romney's plan, I pay well over 20% now. So if you eliminate the mortgage tax deduction and the charitable tax deduction, I'll still be ahead. So to do it, you have to go down and raise and cut the deductions enough that you wind up raising taxes on people in the middle income group. That's the problem.
Do you think this election, the president has said that change has to come from outside rather than in Washington, that this election has the possibility of producing a change that will be able to overcome gridlock?
I don't think it not only has a possibility, I think it almost certainly will. And let me explain why. I think the president's going to win, but let's assume Governor Romney won. If he wins, that almost certainly means the Republicans will hold on to the House, and it'll be about 50-50 in the Senate, more or less the way it is now. if what I think is going to happen happens and President Obama wins, I think that too will break the logjam for a different reason. As Senator McConnell said, their #1 goal for the last 4 years has been denying him a second term. As soon as he gets that, they can't deny him a third term. He can't have one anyway. So I think you will see, I'll just make a prediction. I think in a lame duck session, they will avoid the fiscal cliff. They will reach an agreement
by extending it, by some kind of extension, or by making a deal.
They'll either make a deal or they'll have a short extension, which makes it clear this is not another year. This is not going to fool around. I predict that you will get a budget deal early next year, if not in this lame duck session. And I think you'll see them start to work together. It's going to be a different world.
Yeah. Because the election will have that kind of consequence.
Absolutely.
Suppose the president wins a second term, as you just suggested might happen. Are you therefore freer to do things in foreign policy, to take more risk for peace in the Middle East, for example, than you might otherwise have done because of political repercussions?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, it's certainly true that there will be fewer political repercussions, but I think that the president will be focused on the economy at home, and will be trying to maximize the possibilities of promoting peace and stability and prosperity and fighting climate change, all those things around the world.
Speaking of the Middle East and currently what's going on in Syria, one of Romney's top foreign policy advisors said the other day that Obama has made the United States look impotent in the world. Do the facts bear that out?
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. The suggestion that somehow America could or even should be in the driver's seat in the Arab Spring is inherently ridiculous. I mean,
should we be doing more?
I can go through every country.
We'll take Syria as an example. Should we be doing more in Syria?
Syria is a really difficult proposition, and it's a complex society. When Mr. Assad goes, as I believe eventually he will, what takes its place? How do we do that? These are complicated things. I don't know enough about. Whenever one of these things is going on, I should say, I go out of my way not to talk to Hillary about it, so I don't have any information I shouldn't have, so I don't inadvertently say something to you that I shouldn't say. So I don't know what their options are. But I think that if we have some non-lethal options that we could use to support the Syrian opposition, I presume we would be doing it, and I wouldn't be surprised if we are.
What might that be, though? What kinds of things might that be?
Well, I don't know. They're getting guns. Who's giving them to them?